Okay, so I don't expect anybody to be up right now, but I'm gonna do this anyhow. Not worried about if people come in here or not. I'm gonna do this basically as a video. If anybody joins me, that's fine. If nobody joins me, that's fine too. Okay. I noticed Mr. Hoka had done a live stream in the middle of the night. Okay, on men's mental health issues, and that there's going to be issues with men's mental health in the coming future. I don't think there's going to be issues. I know there's going to be issues in the coming future. No, it's already here. It's just going to progressively get worse. That's my opinion. So yeah, Mr. Hoka's live stream that isn't up that he done in the middle of the night, talking about men's mental health becoming an issue in the future in the next year or two. I agree with him, except for I'm going to say this: men's mental health is already here. Okay, it's already happening. It's not something that's going to be in a year or two from now. It's just already happening, and it's going to progressively get worse. You got to see an example of that when I called When in Doubt out on his own words. Okay, because when I made a simple statement, if you want to catch a man lying, and I'm like, I knew I was probably going to piss some guys off and flip a few people out when I made the statement that if you want to catch a man lying, all you got to do is pay attention to reality. Men who get sex don't go around bragging that I get sex. That's common. That's normal. See, normal human nature is, yes, we all have the ability to want sex. There's nothing wrong with wanting sex. There's nothing wrong with having sex. But it's always been a private matter. It's something that we don't go around bragging about. Okay. And that's just normal behavior. It's unnormal behavior for men that want to brag that they're getting laid. That is actually unnormal behavior. It's not even healthy behavior. Okay. Not at all. Their minds are already deluded. But my point of fact was this: it shows a weakness in men. Whether you believe it or not, it's a mental health issue, but it also shows weakness. Because to fight back against evil, we are literally in a war of evil versus good. There's no doubt about this. This is a war, okay? And this war is not just in the manosphere. Yes, we have a war of the genders, but we also have many other forms of war going on all around you. Okay, and we have enslavement, tyranny coming right down your throats and you can't even see it. We got a whole bunch of people who want to be control freaks over the top of the other people. They don't want to be told what to do themselves, but they want to tell somebody else what they can and can't do. And I could just go on and on with the list of issues. But the form of weakness that I see is that tells me right away that there's no way in hell the majority of the manosphere would ever stand together, even though I'd love to see us come together because that's what needs to happen. It ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen for what Steve was already talking about last night that I didn't listen to: men's mental health. They're not strong enough, smart enough, or intelligent enough to figure out their real enemy, to band together or work together to go after their real enemy. No, men ain't smart enough for that. And MGTOW, as much as I'm going to tell our TFLers they should probably go MGTOW, because it would lift a big chip off their shoulders of constantly being rejected Even though I don't like to tell them that they're never going to have nobody in their life, the truth of the matter in today's society, people are so messed up, so messed up from both sides, both genders. It's not a one-sided thing. It's not just females that are messed up. It is both genders. It's so messed up that you're only asking to be in a situation with lots of drama, being treated lower than a piece of dirt by another human being who has propped themselves into a position that they are not. Okay? Mental health is off the chart. The great thing about the mental health in the manosphere for men, though, is it has been socially engineered. The majority of you have walked down that line, and you are opening the door for red flag laws, and you don't even know you are. I've warned the manosphere about red flag laws. I'm not going to continue to warn you over and over. I've already done it. You are opening the door and allowing that to happen to you through your own ignorance. When people get mad at me for saying if you want to catch somebody lying about whether they get laid, all you got to do is go to MGTOW. Even though the concept of MGTOW is the right concept, it is one of the most fraudulent movements on the internet. Because, see, a man going his own way isn't bragging how much sex he's getting. And you can find tons of that in MGTOW. That's not a man that's going his own way. That's a clown who's using MGTOW for a crutch to hide behind. Okay? If you want fraud and fakery, all you got to do is come to the manosphere or the truther movement. All you got to do is come to America. And you are going to have frauds, fakes. You won't even be able to keep up with how many there are. From the truther movement clear over to the manosphere. But I see cowards more than I see anything. And I'm going to tell you that honestly. I see more cowards than I see honest people. And I see more deceivers and liars than I do honest people. I was just watching this clown who was making a video. He made this a couple of weeks or so ago. Looks like I think the 13th or 14th. Towards Steve Hoka and Staying Insane. And he was agreeing that Steve Hoka's winning the battle between Staying Insane amongst insanity. And the Staying Insane amongst the insanity must have Steve on his mind 24 hours a day, which means Steve has won. So you think the guy's siding with Steve? I agreed with what he was saying about that, but then he turned around and talked how Steve is the dark. And only the light can defeat the dark. So let's see, truth has become darkness to this clown. And light, okay, beats truth because that's the good thing, light, right? That's the truth, that's God, that's blah, 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 that's whatever, that's supposed to be the good thing. But because this clown is ass backwards and fallen for the social engineering, he actually believes that Steve is darkness. He believes telling the truth is evil and it's dark and it can only be defeated with light. So his idea of light is that from the depths of hell, pure evil. So this guy's deluded himself. But that is our society today. People are completely deluded. They don't know what they're talking about. Think about my other day. I did a live stream. I talked about some things, and all I had to do was ask, people from the most fraudulent movement there is, men going their own way. It's sad because the concept of men going their own way is something men need to do. It's something men need to come together on, but they need to be real, not frauds, not fakes. And men going their own way, sure to hell ain't going to be talking about all the pussy they're getting. You know, the common denominator on real people, honest people, is you don't come up here and you're not talking to everybody about how much pussy you're getting. The only people that tend to talk about how much pussy they're getting tend to be people that aren't getting it. I don't care if you have a wife or a girlfriend from the past and you got children and you've had it. I don't care if you're getting it. That has nothing to do with nothing. And I just asked one simple statement of when in doubt when he came in that live stream. Of course, he was already mad at me for saying what I said to catch a liar. All you got to do is go over to MGTOW and look for the MGTOWers who are bragging how much they're getting laid. Because first off, men going their own way, MGTOW, which does stand for men going their own way. In other words, walking away from women. But unfortunately, when you're bragging how much pussy you're getting, you're not walking away from women, which means you're a deceiver, you're a liar. And if you're bragging how much pussy you're getting, you're not getting any pussy anyhow. Because the common denominator that anybody with even a third of a brain knows is men that don't have a problem getting sex, that have women in their life, don't come online the majority of the time making dating scene topic videos. They don't come online saying, I'm a man going my own way and brag how much pussy they're getting. Commonly, men who brag they're getting pussy are men that ain't getting pussy to begin with. And the weakness comes from that's your ability to fit in. You are so worried about being called names by somebody else, being ostracized by somebody else, what other people might think of you, that you come up here and you create this big phony persona for yourself to make yourself look like something you're not, and then get mad at people for seeing through your bullshit. Okay, now that's not my fault that you're that dumb, but it also shows how weak you are. It also shows that you could never stand together to rise up to fight back against the person, the peoples, the powers to be who have done this to us. Because you're already too big of a coward over what somebody might think of you that don't even know you. If I went through my life caring about what other people thought of me, TFL would have never have come online. I wouldn't be here today, and I wouldn't have been here all these years. So think for 1 minute that I wouldn't call out when in doubt the guy was deluded, and you was deluded if you thought I wouldn't, that he's a good guy. So, Steve wanted to call him out from the very get-go because Steve saw through him. I sort of saw through it myself, but at the same time, I had seen nothing negative in comments at that point. And I was like this, no. Regardless if you suspect and I suspect that this guy's a fraud, you still give the benefit of the doubt. No, Steve don't agree with totally on this. He thinks benefit of the doubt goes to somewhere else, and we won't even talk about that because that's between him and I. Okay, he can talk about that if he chooses to. But the benefit of the doubt I gave to when in doubt, ain't that funny? When in doubt, doubt, benefit of the doubt, comes with the fact that I had seen nothing negative from him typed that would suggest otherwise, even though my gut told me otherwise. And I could have went with my gut and my life experiences and called him right at the beginning. But I don't believe in doing that because what if he'd been right? Then I'd have been an ass for doing that and I'd have been wrong. I know this. Time tells all. A deceiver will never ever be able to get by with being a deceiver. If you allow your head to swell up and your ego to swell up and you so seriously start believing you're so intelligent and so smart, you will get your ass handed to you because you will allow that ego and that freaking mentality to believe you're so much smarter than everybody around you. And in doing so, you will tell on yourself. And when you tell on yourself, there's nothing I can do for you other than to be honest. I'm not going to lie to you and I'm not going to BS. Men going their own way was probably the best theory that ever come out. I thank Barbarossa for that. But unfortunately, the majority of men going their own way are fraudulent fakes. And I hate to call them that, but they are. You have a whole bunch of TFLers in denial that ain't willing to be honest with themselves, let alone if you can't be honest with yourself, then you're not going to be honest with anybody else. If you're going to take something like men going their own way and manipulate it and skew it to your want, when it's clear and plain that it stands for men going their own way, which is to walk away from their opposite gender, and then you're going to come up here and brag at how much pussy you're getting while you're calling yourself a man going their own way. You're not a man going their own way. You're just a complete fraud and a fake. You're skewing the message of men going their own way. And she most likely are TFLer because real men who are getting sex doesn't, I mean, I'm sorry. For as long as I've been alive, sex is a thing that's private. I have nothing against people having sex. Never have, never will. But it's a private issue. Yes, it is. And people who are getting sex don't go bragging, okay? And to come into a TFL live stream or an incel TFL live stream where you know the majority of these men have been rejected their whole life, and to not have respect for these men and claim you're here to help them while you're talking about how you get laid, it's like taking a salt shaker, pouring salt in your hand and rubbing it into an open wound on these guys and then yelling at them and blaming them for crying out and telling them to rise above, which is a very sick behavior mentality. And it shows that you don't have care. It tells me you don't have care. You're not there to help them. You're there to mock them. But when you do that, you're flying under the name MGTOW. You're also not a MGTOWer. You're a fraud. You're a fake. And you say, no, I'm not. Well, if you walked away from women like you said you have, you wouldn't be bragging about how much sex you're getting. It's as simple as that. And people that are getting sex don't brag how much sex they're getting anyhow. And to go on a TFL or an incel forum, live stream, whatever it is, and to talk this way is to rub salt in an open wound, to not have respect, and then expect me to respect you. I have no respect for you if you cannot respect others. You know, I have women in my life. I've got somebody right now, and you don't never has anybody ever heard me come up here and brag I got laid last night. It's a crock of shit. It's mental issues. It's weakness. It's you're so worried about fitting in with other people and not being called names or ostracized that you are literally weak. You could have never lasted the years I've lasted doing what I'm doing. You don't got it in you. You couldn't stand up and fight to the corruption of the root cause. You already don't got it in you. You're scared shitless. Don't tell me you're not. You're scared shitless of what somebody else thinks about you that you don't even know. And that mentality says you're weak. It says you will not rise up. It says you will tuck tail between legs and run. Now, this is the crux of it, but I'm telling you the truth, and I don't care what you tell me. It's just like these people who say, this guy that I listened to this morning just made me laugh. He goes on talking about staying insane, has issues, mental issues. He's got Hulk on his mind 24/7. And Hulk has rised above and beat him because Hulk might bring him up one time in a live stream and do the rest of the live stream, never talk about him again. Okay? Which is true. But the issue comes from the fact that he turned around after saying all that and said that, how are we going to stop Steve Hoka? He is darkness. Steve Hoka tells truth. And this guy's calling truth darkness. Which means he's calling lies perversion and evil light. Which means he has completely deluded himself. And this is social engineering. This is what they've done to us. So, you know, I had to say what I had to say towards Win and Dup because he's the one to come into my live stream. And he's the one that opened his mouth. And when he says, well, Steve said no, you can say to me what you want to say to me about Steve said. But I'll guarantee you're not going to start division between me and Steve. If your ploy was to try to turn me and Steve against each other because you want that to happen, well, good luck. Just good luck on that one because I'll be calling you out, not him. You better understand that. You will be the one exposed, not Steve Hoka. You will not turn me against Steve Hoka. Steve Hoka and I have learned to agree to disagree, and even though we don't agree upon everything, overall we do agree upon the majority. And overall, tell you what, like I have life and years behind me, Steve has life and years behind him. Okay? And you know, when it is a stressful situation when you're trying to come up and help people and people don't want your help, people are so deluded. I mean, you know, even yesterday I was talking with Kevin and it was nice talking with Kevin again yesterday. But anyhow, even he talked about the feminist movement and the women within the feminist movement are literally picking and choosing what women they allow and dumping on the other women. And I believe that because that's what you see happening in the manosphere too. It is division straight across the board, and it's been socially engineered, deliberately done. Divide and conquer. Divide and conquer. And you can think I'm just talking conspiracy theory shit all you want. But when they roll out G5 and all this stuff that you say ain't going to happen and it starts happening to you, I don't feel sorry for you. When your society collapses on you and mental health laws are used against you in the manosphere for what I've warned you about, that you turned your head and looked the other way, and you start whining and complaining, I don't feel sorry for you. Matter of fact, if I'm still alive, I'll have a smile on my face. Because you will have earned it. It'll be happening to you because of your ignorance. Because you attacked the messenger. You attacked the very entity who tried to warn you. It's the equivalent of a building being on fire and you being on the 30th floor, and the 15th floor is on fire and the smoke hasn't reached you yet, and I tell you to get out, and you ignore me, laugh at me, attack me, call me names, and I leave the building. And 45, 50 minutes later, you're jumping from the 30th floor window because you have no way out. You're hanging out that window, and an hour later, 2 hours later, you're falling to your death because you had no way out. But you was warned, and you attacked the messenger. That is what that's the equivalent of. So why would I feel sorry for you? Why? I don't. I care about everybody in general. I try to do what's right. I want to see men and women brought back together again. I want to see our behaviors turned around. I want to see us look at each other as human beings and not pieces of meat or not ATM machines. I want to see our behaviors of usury go away. That's happening from both sides, not one side. I want to see wrong behavior from both sides, not one side, go away. This is the reason I tell you, you got to stop, back up, examine your own self on an individual basis, and recognize right from wrong, and ditch any wrong behavior that you got, throw it away, and start doing unto others that you want done unto yourself. And you got to stop focusing on differences between genders and sex. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with sex. It's no different than when in doubt. If he hadn't added, sent her on her way to that statement he made, I wouldn't have even said anything about that statement. Other than to ask him not to talk about that kind of stuff on a live stream with TFLers or incels. For respect. But he didn't have respect. He attacked me for that and said they need to rise up. That's why I threw it in his face about locking him in a cell for 5 days, not letting him have no food at all, only giving him water, and having 150 of the 3 people come up in front of him and have a 3-course dinner right in front of him and not even give him the scraps. And when he's all pissed off, I'm going to use his own language on him and tell him to rise above. He's not going to appreciate that. Matter of fact, he's going to hate me for that. But, that's the respect he showed us. So then he gets the same when he dishes back on him. And if he's upset over that, oh well. Wrong behavior is wrong behavior. And I don't care who you are, even if it was Mike the MGTOW Monk. I'm going to ask him the same thing with respect. If you're trying to help bring the manosphere together and you want to help incellers and TFLers, you cannot brag about sex. Respect. That's all I'm asking, man. And if you're going to attack me for that, then you're the one that don't have respect and you couldn't help anybody. And you already have a problem. So, this is where that comes from. And you're not going to tell me you're a man going your own way while you're running up here bragging about how much tail you're getting. First off, majority of real men who are getting it don't brag about it, so that suggests that you're not getting it. And you're going to say, well, who cares if we are or we ain't? It's because if you're not willing to be honest with yourself, this means you're not going to be honest with anybody else. And if you're not going to be honest, then you just need to zip your mouth and stay to yourself. Because you honestly are not a man going your own way if you're chasing tail. I don't care what you tell me. You ain't going to sit there and tell me how, well, they've been using us and abusing us. Well, this is true, right? So therefore, I'm going to do a wrong too. And I'm going to do this wrong to her, and I'm going to be proud of myself. Two wrongs don't make a right. My goal is to call them out and take the power away from them and force them into a situation where they back up and think about their behavior and lose their programming, and to bring the genders back together again. And when you men represent this behavior, you could never bring the genders back together again because you're every bit as wrong as she is. You can't call her out for her wrongs while you give her ammunition to fire back at you. What are you, bumbling idiots? That's like going to a war and giving your ammo to your enemies so that they can shoot at you while you shoot at them. It's insanity. Okay, so I don't care what you tell me. It is outright insanity. So this is the reason I bring this stuff up. I'm not trying to be an ass to anybody, but I'm going to be straight in your face. I always have been. And I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to tell you the damn truth. I agree with Mr. Hoke, even though I didn't see the live stream because he managed to come up in the middle of the night again. So couldn't see it, couldn't talk to him, couldn't be a part of it. So I don't know what he talked about when he talked about men's mental health issues. But just the title of what he did, I agree with him, but I don't think it's in 2 or 3 years to come. I think it's already here. We're seeing it in our face. Look how angry they got at me for telling men how they can catch fraudulent men. They're most likely TFLers. And not that all will be TFLers. Some will just be guys that ain't getting any at the time, and they did have some in the luck with women who ain't with a woman now, who are too worried about fitting in, who are too worried about what other people will think about them. And unfortunately, when your mentality is you're worried about what other people think of you and fitting in, that you're going to cockamamie make up lies and not be honest within your own self, this also tells me you're too weak to fight this war. It says you've already lost. You've already set yourself up. You're weak. You're scared of what somebody else thinks about you that don't even know you. Are you here for popularity? You're here for all the wrong reasons, or you're just a right-out coward. So you're not going to rise up against anybody. Because that mentality comes from somebody who's scared shitless, not somebody who's strong enough to stand up and fight back. And you sure can't bring the manosphere together by rubbing salt in open wounds. And you sure ain't going to be calling yourself a MGTOWer to me while you're busy chasing tail. Because that's not what a MGTOWer is. That's what a fraudulent fool is. That's what somebody who wants to claim there's something they're not is. Okay? Because you can make the claim all you want, but your own actions tell on you. Time tells all, man. And your actions will tell on you. And for anybody out there, and I don't care who you are, I don't care what gender you are, whether you're female or male, if you let your ego swell up and you start believing you're smarter than everybody around you, and you're just that intelligent, it's no different than like when in doubt is using his video editing program and adding all this special effects and doing all this ripping of audio, and he's spending major time, which I could do myself if I wanted to. I used to spend some major time editing videos. I don't spend as much time anymore. I've never been an egomaniac. I got into it a little bit when I first started this stuff, and and I've got a pretty good program that I can use, that I own, that has updates itself all the time. That has some great freaking effects and all this other stuff that I don't even use. And why don't I use it? Because I'll use simple effects, but I'm not going to get into detail and spend hours making a video for my ego. I'm not going to feed corruption, because when you feed your ego, you are feeding corruption. You're only helping to corrupt your own self. And if you're an honest person who cares about other people, you don't need all that crap anyhow. You might need some of this to point out something to people, and you can use your video editing when you have to for something legit to point out to somebody or show somebody something. But that's really all you need it for. You don't need all the fancy effects. It's no different than the OBS studio and all the options you got, and the hundreds of different studio layouts and TV sets that you can put yourself in. To me, that's all ego driven. Egomaniacs love that stuff. I'm not an egomaniac, and I don't care about my views, honestly. I don't care. I've been being suppressed down for years by Google, and it doesn't affect me any. Why? Because it's not about popularity. It's not about being famous. It's not about popularity. It's not about all the wrong things. It's about trying to help people. That's what this has always been about for me. Just care and trying to help other people and trying to straighten up our world and trying to bring the genders back together. That's right, back together, not divided. But unfortunately, sometimes you got to do something to the extreme, like men going their own way, and separate us before you can bring us back together to send a loud message. And this is why I say, yes, men need to walk away from women, but they need to be serious about it. MGTOW was the answer, but it's not the answer for a bunch of clowns who are going to come up here and call themselves a man going their own way while they're chasing tail. Okay, that's not it. That is not MGTOW, and I don't care what you tell me. That makes you a disgrace and a fraudulent. Hell, a TFLer in denial and MGTOW is more of a MGTOW than you guys who are bragging about chasing tail. At least that TFLer could actually say he's walking away from women. You men that are chasing tail while you're calling yourself MGTOW, you're a disgrace. You're complete idiots. It's just like how many MGTOWers I've seen talking about pump and dump. Okay, you're going to be bragging about pumping and dumping. So you're going to brag about doing wrong behavior onto the gender that's wrong in you. Which, of course, only keeps the division alive, keeps us separate from one another, and could never, ever bring us back together again. So you don't practice any critical thinking skills, obviously. You don't have that within you, right? You don't have care or respect for anybody within yourself, neither, do you? That's where I come from with this. So whether you like me or not, this is where I come from with this, because to be honest with you, our society is so messed up, so messed up, that I don't know that there's a cure to turn anything around to begin with, because we're that far gone. We really are. Because this is a lot deeper than just the manosphere. A whole lot deeper than just the manosphere. When you look over at the truther community, they're every bit as messed up as we are over here. And what good, honest people you do have that are trying to speak out about what's going on are being censored and pushed down and shut up by criminals. Okay? But the reality is our world is in such a bad state right now that if we do not as mankind take our heads out of our you know what. Self-destruction is inedible. You're not going to get around it. So you'll be over here all worried about the manosphere. Wow, your real enemy comes through your back door that don't care about the manosphere. The manosphere is for divide and conquer. The red flag laws are going to be easy to push on the manosphere. Because the manosphere, whether you're incel, TFL, or men going your own way, they got you right where they want you. You do represent mental health issues because of the programming. And if you don't want it, you're going to call somebody else staying insane has mental issues. Meanwhile, you're doing shit that shows you have mental issues. But the irony is you can't see it. You see it in them and can't see it yourself. And everybody wants to believe they're above somebody else, better than somebody else, smarter than somebody else for the game. You know, you got to have game, right? Stupidity, dumbness, ignorance. You know, I stood with When in Doubt for some of his own words, which is what I'm chasing and wanting and fighting for. But I also suspected the guy wasn't for real. But I wasn't going to say it. Why? Because I could have been wrong. Because I have a feeling, just like with Steve, that he is not honest and he's a fraud, just like Steve did. Doesn't mean I'm going to attack him and call him out. I would much rather have him tell on himself. And he did a good job of ratting his own self off without even knowing he was. Which I knew he would. It actually happened a little quicker than I thought it would. And I knew if he did that I was going to come at him and call him out. Okay, because he's not going to, you know, I mean, it's just the way it is. Now, I'm not saying When in Doubt's a bad person, but he's growing up in the same world with the rest of us, man, and he has the same damn social engineering that the rest of us have. None of us escape that. None of us. The only one of us, the only people that escape the social engineering are the people that can truly see the truth and still have care and have care in their heart and want to do what's right upon others and want what's right. Then they will be the ones that will back up on an individual basis, recognize right from wrong, and be able to recognize their own wrongs and will correct their own selves for the benefit of everybody. But that's low numbers now, isn't it? It sure is. I'll tell you, I'm one of them people. Okay, and that's one of the reasons I get pushed down and censored all the time. Because I truly do care about all of us. My whole intention is to bring the manosphere together to walk away from women for real. And if you could bring enough men together to walk away from women for real, then and only then, once enough men do it, could we cause an awakening on the women to where the women want to have no choice but to back up and rethink and then to start recognizing the root cause in their behaviors and to correct their own selves. And only through that could we bring the genders back together again and defeat the people at the top who have done this for us. Because that's when you rise up out of anger and you go after the people who've done this for it to you. Your real enemy, not each other. Our real enemy isn't women. Our real enemy isn't each other. Our real enemy is sitting there at the top laughing at how you're acting because you're doing exactly what they want you to do. It's sad. It really is. They're winning. You're losing. And that guy that did that video calling out Steve Hoken staying insane and was all about Steve Hoken's winning and staying insane's mental, and then turned around and called Steve darkness as if Steve's evil. is because he's deluded himself, which is hilarious and sad at the same time that he's that dumb to not see that Steve is telling the truth, that Steve has not lied to him. You know, that's the one thing I always say about Steve is he is brutally honest. He's honest and he tells us he feels. He says how he feels, okay? And he's straight honest with you. With that, I have respect for Steve Hoka, okay? Because that is being honest. It's like myself. You know, we're all individuals and we're not always going to agree, but it's not a reason to hate on each other. It's not a reason to call each other names. And it's not a reason to get into a drag out fight. I caught out staying insane, or no, I caught out staying insane one time pretty much and walked away from him. I caught out when in doubt now. Now I walk away from him. If when in doubt, don't want that, then when in doubt needs to back up and think about what when in doubt's doing. And when in doubt needs to be honest with himself. It's no different than Mike the MGTOW Monk. I don't hate these guys, but I also, Mike the MGTOW Monk, I have the same message for him. If you're going to go up on a live stream, if you really want to help the manosphere, you really want to bring the men together, I'm with you. I'm all for that. But if you're going to go on a live stream with DFLers and incels and talk about how much pussy you get, then I will disrespect you as fast as you disrespect us. If you have respect for us, we'll have respect for you, and we'll work together. But if you can't respect us, then we're not going to respect you. And as far as being mad at me for saying how to catch a fraudulent liar in the MGTOW movement, because the MGTOW movement at this point in time that I've observed, that Steve Hoax has observed, I'll tell you what, is probably right at the top list of one of the most fraudulent movements there ever has. And it's sad because MGTOW was the answer. And it's absolutely loaded full of frauds and fakes that completely destroys what's needed. And that is no accident. That is deliberately done. I said this quite some time back. The powers to be at the top hated MGTOW with a passion because they knew that if people took it seriously, men really took it seriously, and men really walked away from women instead of following women where women shall go, men shall go. If you had been strong enough to be a real man and walked away, it would be the one thing that would overturn their years of programming. And they knew it. So they infiltrated MGTOW online. And they sent people in to be fraudulent MGTOWers. And they pushed it. They pushed it. Now you got all these people in here preaching, chasing tail, and pump and dump, and blah, 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 who are completely destroyed, men going their own way, and continuing the division and the globalists, the elites, an agenda, and don't even know they are. So, you know, and I can't do anything to help you. You have to help yourself. But it does start with honesty. And for all of you men that claim that you're a MGTOWer, it starts with honesty. And if you're not going to be honest with yourself, then you're not going to be honest with anybody else. And if you can't see the irony and running around bragging you're getting pussy, how you're telling on yourself that you're not, that's not my stupidity. That just shows that you don't got very much life experience. You might want to claim you do, but you don't. Okay? You're not using what's in your head, that's for sure. and to have respect for TFLers and incels, and to not go on a live stream bragging about how much pussy you're getting, that's just respect. But to turn that respect around and throw it at them because you like rubbing salt into open wounds, then I can't have respect for you, and I won't. And you ain't gonna bring me down or stop me. I don't give a shit how many subs you got. There's a reason I've lost channels. There's a reason I don't have subs. It's because I'm not fitting in to corruption. If you have a whole shitload of subs, it's because you're fitting in with an agenda, the corruption. You may not like me for saying that, but it is the truth. And if you're worried about losing them subs, then you're most likely here for the wrong reason to begin with. Which also makes you part of the problem, not part of the cure. The answer in the cure isn't being part of the problem. But I guess with that, guys, I'm going to get on out of here. But I wanted to come up here a little bit this morning and talk about this. Okay? And I wanted to touch up a little bit on Steve's podcast I didn't get to see because once again it aired in the middle of the night. Okay, so and then of course it didn't go up because he didn't put it up. Okay, so I got nothing more I can say other than you're not going to run me off. You're not going to divide me and Steve. Okay, and you people, if you're so scared for you men to not fit in to what other people think about you, you have already lost. You couldn't rise together. You couldn't rise up and fight any kind of war because you're already cowards. Your tails would tuck between your legs and you would run. You going to be mad at me for saying that? I don't care. It is the truth. I could have never made it as long as I have online if I had your mentality. I would have ran years ago. But I don't got your mentality. I recognize right from wrong. And I have tough skin and I care about everybody. And I've been here doing this a long time and I've been through about every kind of attack you could even think of, man. I'm telling you. From having death threats to being trolled for year after year to having people trying to get my personal home information to pass it to the public to being called everything foul and vile under the sun. If there's an attack that could happen, it's happened to me. And I'm still here. You don't believe me? I don't care what you believe. I know I've been here. I've been through it. And the only thing you did was make me stronger. You can attack me all you want. It's like telling me that Steve Hoke is dark. He's in the dark, and the only way you can defeat the dark is with light. And that's to say that truth is dark and evil is light, which is upside down on its head. No, truth is Steve Hoke is honest and very truthful and tells you what he feels. Steve Hoke is the one in the light. The person who made that statement is actually in the dark, looking at the light when they see Steve and they're going, I can't see, I'm blinded by that light. And they're not about to tell you that, right? Because they're upside down. They're deceived. They're deluded. But anyhow, guys, hey, y'all have a good one.